Welcome to the FAM podcast. How are you?
I'm good. So excited to be here.
Yes,
we did it.
We did it. It's been so long coming.
It has.
But we trust the Lord's timing. We keep talking about that, which is so true. So why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are. Give us a little bit of your background.
Okay. So my name's Kelly Nunn. I am from San Juan Capistrano, born and raised. Went away for a short period of 2.5 years and came back.
What was the 2.5 years for college?
San Jose.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, for the last 2.5 years of college, because I was a transfer student. And let's see, I live in Rancho Santa Margarita, and I work at Pacifica Christian High School, where I'm the Associate Director of Student Life. And then I am a part-time lecturer, teacher, professor at Chapman University, where I teach in the leadership minor.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of leadership work, and that's where I'm at.
Yeah. What do you mean by leadership work? Yeah.
Oh, the question. So leadership has so many definitions, right? So everybody, I know growing up, I had a certain definition in my mind. So my heart and soul is really helping people find their authentic selves. Who are they authentically, so that as they are their best authentic selves, they can help others do the same. So leadership to me is doing that.
I love that.
And being able to find that person who you are, that God created you to be able to go out into the world and give that. And whether it's in your sphere here or your big sphere there, whether it's local, global, however that looks, and the ripple effects that has from there. But leadership work is basically just working with people. I just so happen to do a lot of it with the youth. And it's a huge heart and passion of mine from adolescence into the college years, to help them discover who they are. Yeah. And once they discover who they are, that's the leader within them.
So cool.
And so that's, to me, what leadership work is all about. It's that ripple effect, right? That they figure out who they are so others can figure out who they are. They can be the best of themselves so others can do the same.
So cool.
Yeah.
And that is such a different way to look at leadership. So would you say that then every single person is a leader, just in their own unique ways? Is that kind of...
Well, actually switch it, and I want to actually ask you this question.
Okay.
So how were you raised to believe? Is leadership taught? Can you learn it? Or is it something that you were born with?
Yeah. I think both.
Okay.
But I have always seen it be either that someone chose you as a leader and is raising you up to be that, or that's naturally who you are, but that there is like a rightful order, and that there's leaders and then there are those that follow.
Yeah, so it's fascinating. As I grew up, I always thought leadership looked a certain way, sounded a certain way, were the certain people that were in the front of the group, or they were the loudest ones, or they were the ones that were captains on their teams, right?
Yeah.
And so leadership can be taught. Leadership is something that is within all of us, because when we strip away a title or a role that we play, we are leaders in everything that we do.
Yeah.
And leaders, teachers, and coaches, I mean, if you think about it, I lead, I teach, and I coach with titles. But just in my everyday life, if I didn't have those titles, I would be a leader. I would just, by being me and being the best that I can possibly be of me, learning and growing. And there's so many values in leadership. By doing that, I may inspire you to also find more about yourself, or really just give. What can I do? How can I give? These little, think about like a puzzle, like had all the same pieces in it.
Yeah.
Right? And leadership is much like that. If you just had a puzzle of all the leaders, it looked a certain way, the puzzle wouldn't go together.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have the big picture, right? And God calls us to be who we are because he gave us certain gifts and whatnot. And so that's our puzzle piece. That's how we lead. And so I truly believe all of us are leaders, but it's how we do it is a whole nother thing, because there's so many different ways to lead.
Totally.
Yeah.
So when I first met you, you were running a organization called 1 Degree Leadership.
Yes.
what does 1 degree mean? Like, what is that, the name? You've told me, but tell us.
Oh, I love this story. So I learned this actually when I was coaching at a soccer camp. The head psychologist for the women's national team was speaking, and she shared this story. And it's the idea that at 211 degrees, water's hot. 212 degrees, water boils. Boiling water creates steam. Steam can drive locomotives, trains, boats, places, right? And then when people go places, they then inspire change, and change happens. So without that 1 degree, that change can't happen.
Yeah.
But within that 1 degree, you have to be consistent, and you have to because if you take the pot off of the boiling water or off of the heat, it doesn't boil anymore, right? And so that consistent pressure, that consistent heat, that consistent application, consistent learning, consistency, that is what 1 degree is all about, is how do we consistently become more about who we are. So 1 degree leadership was all about helping young girls in athletics specifically find their voice and find who they were and how they can best give of themselves on the field or on the court or whatever, game they were playing. So,
I love the idea of like we're all maybe 1 degree away from being able to be in that place or that like position of leadership. All of us. I mean, really. Which is so cool. Okay. Well, let's zero in on that, which is kind of the topic that we really wanted to cover, which is kind of like your whole heart behind leadership in general. But this idea of being authentically you, and maybe even specifically like your specific voice, being able to embrace who God has made you to be. And then when you do that, you're going to lead others in that. And that kind of maybe everyone who's listening, including me and you, we're kind of in that 1 degree. We're just 1 degree away. So let's talk about the authentic. So you've already kind of said it, but I'd like you to just unpack it a little bit more. Why is it so important for, so maybe we think specifically of the girls that might be listening, athletes, teammates, maybe some coaches. Why is it so important that we are authentically ourselves? Why is that so important?
So I'll start with the idea of that puzzle again, right? So every team, every group, like if you are not that piece, if you are not yourself, if you are not authentically doing what you were created to do, then your team is missing out on something. It's like a soccer team. So I grew up playing soccer my whole entire life. That's my background. I coached for nearly 15 years. I ran cross country. I did track in high school. I loved those sports. But soccer was my thing. And so I kind of think of the analogy of imagine a team that you have and you just take the center midfielder out. Well, what's going to happen? The team's going to kind of fall apart on the field, right? So let's say a person gets a red card or whatever, or someone just doesn't show up for the day, It's one of those things that you take a piece of that 11 out that are on the field and it just kind of doesn't operate the same way. If you take the axle out of a car, it doesn't work the same way. There's things work a certain way because they have the pieces to it. Well, we are a part of that greater puzzle. We are a part of God's kingdom. We are a part of something that's meant to go share his gospel into this world, right? It happens the same exact way on the field or the court, or if you're rowing or whatever you're doing, if you are not authentically you, if you're not doing what you were best meant to do, whether it's in that season growing and learning, or in that season scoring the most amount of goals, or in that season being the unsung hero that is just working their butt off and just keep working, then you're the engine. No matter what, if you are not authentically you, people are missing out. We do this activity in my leadership minor class. And I'll do my best to explain it, but it's a really cool way to get a picture of this. Okay. So it's called I'm a Tree, and it's an improv activity. And the students love this because afterwards you get this really cool picture of why authentically we need you. So let's say I say I'm a tree. I want you to just name something that associates with the tree.
Leaves.
Right. And then I respond then squirrel. Right. And so you have this picture in your head. You have a tree, leaves, and squirrel.
Yeah.
And what happens is then you take two of those things out and you're left with, let's say you're left with leaves. Associate again with leaves, with something else.
I thought green.
Perfect. I'm going to go yellow. Okay. So then we're going to take two more of those out. We're going to leave yellow. So associate with yellow again.
Bumblebee.
Perfect. So I'm going to say butterfly. So if you notice, we went from a tree all the way to a butterfly within just 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But imagine if other voices were in that. Imagine if other people's authentic voices came into that. You could be on a completely different storyline.
Totally.
Right? And everybody that's in that room could be impacted in such a way that maybe you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But what happens in this activity is you get this very palpable, real ripple effect that you just see because people share their authentic voices, their authentic ideas. Some people will throw in just total left fielders that, references to movies or references to books or famous characters or movie lines. And people at first, maybe they go, oh, right? And like the classic Harry Potter reference or the Office reference. And all of a sudden you're veering off, right?
Yeah.
And that would have never happened if someone didn't share their authentic voice. So the same happens, let's say, on the volleyball court. Let's say that you are really scared to be you. Yeah. And you're scared. You could just keep trying to be who your coach wants you to be. So you keep trying to be the best librero that your coach wants you to be. And you're like, that person, like you keep comparing yourself. And comparison is the thief of joy. It's one of my favorite quotes. Unfortunately, don't ask me who said it. I think it's Eleanor Roosevelt. And imagine if you keep trying to be something you're not.
Yeah.
Well, in that process of you trying to keep trying to be something you're not, you're missing out on your own growth.
Wow.
And your team is missing out on the impact that you get to have that maybe that storyline they would have never seen if you didn't actually just authentically be yourself.
I don't know why I'm hearing this and immediately I'm feeling a little bit sad because I'm like, yes. And I'm just imagining two girls. I'm imagining like the person you're describing, the someone who is maybe not sure who they are.
Yeah.
So like, well, wait, but my coach wants me to be this kind of person and this is who people say I am. How do I be actually who God made me to be? And then I think about the other person who might think like, actually, I don't think that what I would add would actually help. I think it would hurt. Like kind of like the person that feels so negatively about themselves that if they are truly themselves, it's going to cause a bad ripple or it's going to bring them, I don't know. So I don't know why I immediately go to them. Will you speak to that a little bit more then?
Yeah, I'll try. The first thing that comes to my mind is this idea that I go back to kind of my story. So growing up, there was always another Kelly. Literally speaking, there was always another Kelly on my team, in my classes. And specifically in soccer, my coach always almost put her on this pedestal. It was always Kelly this, Kelly that. And it wasn't me he was talking about. And so there was this comparison that I always had in my head. And it wasn't necessarily that my coach was saying, well, this Kelly is great and that Kelly not so great.
Yeah.
It wasn't that. It was his actions that spoke so loudly to me that I created a narrative in my head that I just wasn't enough for him.
Yeah.
And so I kept trying to be her. I kept trying to be the forward she was. I kept trying to use her skills. I kept trying to juggle 150 juggles. She actually, I think, got up to like 300 or 400 one time at lunch. And all I wanted to do was be like her. I mean, she had the guy I liked, we're talking about sixth grade. Yeah. So it's, but in my mind, I kept trying to be her. When I had to realize my gift was my speed. She didn't have my speed.
Yeah.
I was super fast and they called me Scooter because I was just lightning quick on the line. I also had a real good gift for being an outside midfielder. So I could cross that ball and just whip it in. And I loved kind of being that person that got the cross in and was the assist. Right? I didn't have to be the leader in scoring. But guess who got all the attention? Kelly, who was the leader in scoring. You know, and I kind of look at that as that comparison of me constantly thriving to prove myself to my coach that I didn't think he thought that I was good enough. He sat me on the bench more than her, in my perception. There was always just she was more. Not her fault. Not her fault at all. And I would speak to those two young ladies you're talking about, is that I bet you anything that if they were to actually connect with each other, and I bet you anything if they were to share their fears and insecurities that they have with each other, that all of a sudden they would realize, oh, we're in the same boat.
Okay.
Right? And to the coach that's listening, I would say, hey, it's okay to actually say, how am I impacting you? How are my actions impacting you? That's a very vulnerable question to ask, right? Especially to those that maybe aren't your biggest fans. But even more so, I'm going to have to tread lightly here because I know this is a very competitive world. But at a young age, I was impacted because we were very competitive. I was severely competitive. My team was competitive. We wanted to do the best. And yet, playing time for me, I needed just a little bit more of a boost of confidence from my coach. Looking back, was I as great as the other Kelly? No, I didn't have as much skill as her. But could my coach have spoke into my gift and my talent that I did have?
Yes.
And could I then have said, okay, you know, this is what I can do, right? It took until my senior year of high school for a coach to look at me and go, wow, you've got a gift. Let's use that. Right? Until then, it was always me constantly striving to be the other Kelly. I wanted to be that other Kelly.
So would you say that a main way that you have discovered who you truly are, to be the authentic version of you, was through other people noticing things about you? Or how did you get to a point of like learning more about who you are?
Oh, that's a good one, Nat. Okay, looking back when I was younger, it definitely was the affirmation. Okay. Right? It was the awards. It was the, every sport that I played from probably sophomore year, freshman year of high school to senior year of college, I was voted most inspirational in some form or fashion. That was a part of me trying to scream and shout of, hey, I need you to hear me. I need you to see me because I don't feel seen. I don't feel heard. I am a leader, but I don't have a captain's armband. So this is how I'm going to lead. I'm going to inspire the heck out of you. And I'm just going to be your best cheerleader. And also I'm going to play to my best ability with a whole lot of passion on the field. And I'm going to fight tooth and nail every play. As I got older, the thing that became more and more evident is that affirmation and awards wasn't what I needed. What I really needed was me going, okay, that's right. That's who I am. I also, just to be very forthright, I didn't have a relationship with the Lord until my mid-20s. Okay. So I didn't discover, I was born and raised with Christian beliefs and morals, but I was not. The idea of having a relationship with Jesus was so foreign to me. When I was in my late 20s, it all of a sudden became something where I was, oh, wow, okay, this is something. And when the Lord puts in your spirit this peace and this calm, and then all of a sudden you get this like this burst of energy when you're doing what you are meant to be doing in his kingdom, there's nothing else like it. So that's really interesting how, it evolves from when you're young, when you're striving to be, hey, I want to be seen. So the awards are great. Those words of affirmation, right? And so for me, that probably was my biggest love language. And it might still be to this day. Totally. But I have to keep going back to when am I stepping into the Lord's gifting? Like, what does that look like? I can't necessarily say that it doesn't feel incredible when people speak into me, still to this day.
Well, what I'm hearing too is that when we do use our words to maybe like affirm something in someone or encourage something that impacted us personally, it actually can do really amazing things for the person we're affirming in them walking into their authentic self.
Absolutely.
So that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And maybe it sounds like it's less motivating when that's long term, when that's the only thing that we're trying to get. But if it's a means to a different end, it's not like the end is the affirmation. The end is walking in our authentic self. A means to that end is maybe seeing where people are encouraging you and like seeing things in you that are really great things.
Yeah.
Because I think when you're young too, you are really dependent on what other people see in you. And sometimes that can lead you astray. And I've seen where that's led me astray. But also you working to be the most inspirational person, in many ways you still are that kind of person that just may not be like the only aspect of your leadership, but that still is part of it for sure.
What I love too about that is how much the Lord was creating these almost little systems in me of this little part, these little pieces of the gifting, right? And so I'm going to show you that you're really good at encouraging people. You're really good at seeing people.
Yeah.
I'm also going to show you, I mean, from a very young age, being super empathetic and super sensitive, I didn't realize that my sensitivity was actually a strength.
Yeah.
And it can be a hindrance, right? But I didn't realize just how much of a strength it was until later, because I was always told, Kelly, don't be so sensitive.
Yeah.
And I'm emotional on top of it. So don't be so sensitive. Don't be so sensitive. Be stronger. And whether it was being words or actions that happens, right? But for me, then for that little nugget to be then taken of, I could walk into a room and feel the person that needs to be encouraged that day, right? I get to go to teams. When I worked for 1 Degree Leadership and we were doing the work that we were doing, I would go and do team building with these teams.
Yeah.
And the girl who fought me the most was the one who was being the most inauthentic.
Whoa.
Because she felt seen and it scared the crap out of her.
Whoa, wait, okay. Unpack that a little bit more.
I want to. So, it's incredible.
Yeah, so you go in to do a team builder, and because you saw that person, or all of a sudden one girl gets really defensive.
Incredibly defensive.
Okay.
Over and over and over again, there was this thing that kept happening. Whenever I would go in and do any kind of leadership training, when I was at camps, when I was doing... I would always almost connect most with the girl that had a huge shield up.
Okay.
That would have this inauthentic part of her that she was either really feisty, she was spicy. There are other words that we could use, but I won't use them, ones. Right? That she was really to herself. And not in an introverted to herself way, but more retreating into herself, hiding almost. The one who would, from the moment her coach's voice would yell at her to like tell her to do something, would shut down. Okay. Those girls almost always would put up this immediate, I'm going to fight back on you. So I'm either going to disagree with everything you say. Okay. Or I'm going to have some sarcastic remark. Because you would hate to, I don't want you to see what I'm really feeling inside. Wow. Which is, I am super insecure and scared. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know how I can do any better. I'm just trying to be me, and I can't do this anymore. I can't put on this front. But somehow you see me. Wow. Why do you see me? Well, one of the neatest things is I've discovered that the Lord's given me a gift to see right through it. Okay. And it's almost this empathetic draw towards these girls. Yeah. And countless times when I just start asking them questions, you just see their shield starts to melt down a little bit. They will fight me, and they, in front of a group, they will always be the jokester, or they're going to be the one that's going to fight you, or no, I'm fine. I'm fine when they walk off the field and you're just trying to encourage them. I'm fine. And it's actually, no, there's something going on deeper. Wow. And then all of a sudden you see this light go on of, I'm seen. she sees me. Oh, that's scary.
Yeah.
Like, if she now sees what I'm truly, truly struggling with, then she might judge me.
Okay.
Then we might go down the road. If she judges me and she judges me in a way that my worth is attached to it, then I'm not going to be good enough. And she's going to see that I don't belong here. And so, and I've kind of, if I could, I'm going to go down the road of this judgment piece. This is something that I think gets so, it gets wrapped into, it's like a sticky web that gets stuck to us so early on in our years of, I'm so afraid of what people are thinking of me, that this judgment, the fear of judgment is attached to our worth.
Yeah.
The fear is actually so often so much bigger than what people are actually thinking about us, right? Because usually it's their own insecurities that they're thinking of.
Like, what's an example?
Okay, so I walk into the room and I see you look at me a certain way, and I immediately think, oh God, she doesn't like what I'm wearing.
Okay, yeah.
I need to leave. Like, I need to leave. She doesn't like what I'm wearing, or it's not enough, or because I'll play into my own insecurity than actually asking you what's really, like, what was that look for? When
so it was just a look, and then you took it as something way bigger.
Right. And in judgment, that's what fear of judgment will do.